Welcome to the Foster Friendly Podcast, where we come together to make a difference in the lives of children in foster care and the families who care for them. Foster Friendly communities are part of a nationwide movement by America's Kids Belong that helps people from all walks of life take action and help kids and families thrive. You'll hear from former foster youth, foster and adoptive parents, social workers, faith and business leaders, and other experts on how to engage in meaningful ways. Our hosts Brian, Travis, and Courtney explore inspiring stories of everyday people making a difference in foster care where they live and work.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Foster Friendly Podcast. I'm your host, Travis Vangsnes, joined by my co-host, Courtney Williams. Today, we're really excited to have on our guest, Corey McKinney, who is far more than just a professional speaker. He's an influential thought leader in the realms of peer pressure and bullying. He has a rich portfolio that includes being an award-winning author, a mentor at the esteemed Steve Harvey Mentoring Camp, a veteran basketball official with 2 decades of experience, a former Division I basketball player, and a former foster parent. Corey's purpose is to decrease gun violence, negative peer pressure, and bullying all over the world. He wants to spread his message, to go the extra mile for others, to spread positivity in the sometimes dark world we live in, which often it can feel that way. So really, really grateful to have you on today, Corey.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys brought me on, and I'm thankful for you guys for everything that you do. I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, before we get more into the interview with you, I just have to know, with your basketball background, just being a D1 player, and then all your officiating through the year, what are some of the favorite things or life moments, lessons about basketball? Like, what is it about basketball that really you love?
It's just the teamwork, the camaraderie with the guys, in the locker room, all the practices and the hard work you have to put in. Like, there's so much related to life about sports. Like, for us practicing, like, people don't see that part. They don't see the hard work part that you put in the day to day. They just see the games and the highlight parts of it. But it's a lot of work, it's a lot of adversity that you face, and life is the same way. You're going to face adversity, and sports just kind of teach you how to deal with those things and how to come back from setbacks and to push hard. And once you achieve a certain goal or dream, it's all worth it at that point in time.
So true. I love it.
Yeah. And it's funny, just reading, I did read your book, Foster Dad, and just listening through Travis, reading your short little bio. You have quite the history and a lot of fun stuff you've got to do in your life. But share a bit more about your own upbringing and how that has impacted your experiences and led you to what you're doing today. Even, I know you just came off of some time working at the Steve Harvey camp and being a motivational speaker. Talk to us about those things.
Yeah, growing up, man, I was able to luckily run into one of my youth football coaches who was very, very instrumental into my life. He was one of those guys that was a disciplinarian. He was like hardcore on the 7-year-old kids, but we were outstanding, man. We only lost 1 game in 6 years. So I kind of saw the extra mile from him because, we used to go to his house and spend the night at his house and go out of town and do all those things. And it was through sports again that kind of led me to those things. So my upbringing was I got a chance to kind of see things, and sometimes for young people, if they don't see it, they don't really know they can achieve it. So it was able to see it through him. Growing up, there was a lot of gangs and drugs and violence in my neighborhood, so it was a really tough area. So I was those sports kind of helped me out a lot to get through those tough times as a kid growing up.
And so, what are you doing today?
So now I'm actually a speaker myself, and I find myself trying to give back, just like you mentioned the Steve Harvey camp. I just got back from that on Sunday, and we bring in hundreds of kids to his ranch down in Georgia that don't have fathers, and they're dealing with single moms just trying to raise them by themselves. So we have a 5-day camp for them, teaching them about discipline, teaching them about structure, about being respectful to women and themselves, and just going for their dreams and goals. So it's a life-changing event, after those 5 days those boys have at the ranch.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that you have that passion to give back in that sense and to pour into boys, because it is definitely missing.
Absolutely. And then when somebody poured into you as a youth, I don't even know if I thought about it, but I've been mentoring young people for 30 something years. Like, my first job, I was 13 years old and I was a counselor at this camp. and the kids were on like they were like 11 and I was only 13, so I was barely older than the kids were. But I didn't even realize it at that time that kind of started my journey as being a mentor, and
Hmm.
I've been mentoring young people ever since.
Very cool. And I mean, all of us, when we look back at our lives, we can think of like, who was that person besides my parents or whatever that you just looked up to,
Mhm.
and you never forget them. You never forget their influence on your life and how it might have changed even what you did next. So
Absolutely.
huge legacy. So yeah, well, that's going to be really the course we're going to chart in this conversation. We're going to go more into that and mentoring and fostering. So let's just get rolling on the next phase. So you had two sons when your wife first asked you about fostering, and then you
Yeah.
were reluctant at first. And a lot of guys are. A lot of us kind of come in later onto that. But tell us about that journey of saying yes and whether your fears for your boys proved valid.
Yeah, I was real hesitant, when she asked me about fostering. I was like, that was nowhere on my radar to be a foster parent, and I didn't even really know a lot about the foster care system. So, it's like you don't know what you don't know. And I knew that she wanted to do it, but I didn't know what I was getting into. And as a father, I think I was kind of protective of my two sons. I was thinking kind of in a manner of, what are these kids going to bring into the house or how they're going to affect my two sons or whatever. So I just wasn't sure and I wasn't clear about it. And my heart wasn't in the right space at the time. So it took about 2 years. Like she continued to ask me to foster for about 2 years. And I was just like, nah, like this, I don't want to do any, I don't want that smoke. I don't want anything to do with fostering. So her being, consistent with it and wanting to try it. And I started having a different mindset because when you think about foster kids, they come into the system at no fault of their own. Like this is something that they didn't do anything to get into the foster care system. There's something that happened with the parents or something like that that placed them into the foster care system. So as I started to think about it, I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. I'm the dad of the house. I can take this. I can handle this. Just bring it on. So I kind of got motivated, and once my heart got in the right place, and I got locked in on what I wanted to do, and we did all the classes and paperwork. I was in, man. And when I got in there, I'm glad I made that decision.
Hmm. So, what did that look like for your boys, and how did you find time for them while welcoming other
Yeah.
boys into your home?
Yeah, it was busy. It was really busy because my youngest son was playing all the sports. So we got basketball, football, baseball, and so it was tough to try to navigate all of that. Working and then coming home and then practice and then the kids and homework a lot of times. So it was a lot. I tell people all the time, it's not like an easy job. I mean, you add no more responsibilities, but you could do it. As long as you're focused on it, and as long as you have your heart in the right reasons. And we had talked to our sons like prior to anyway. Like we really sat down with them to tell them what we was about to do even before we did it. That the kids were coming in, and I used to explain to them like, listen, man, if something ever happened to me and your mom, I would hope and I would pray that somebody would take care of you guys. So these kids are coming in, they need somebody to help them. They need somebody to kind of, fill in the gap for right now. So that's what we're going to do. We're not going to, discard you guys. We tried to balance it out the best we could. And we took our kids everywhere with us. So it was like, it was just part of the family. So, the adjustment on bringing them in, it was okay. It was pretty smooth.
Do you think your boys now would say they wish you guys didn't foster, or did they see it as a positive part of their journey and story?
Yeah, I think they really, really see it as a positive thing, especially now. My oldest son was a little bit older, so he kind of took it a little bit better from the beginning. Now, my youngest son really did that first. Like he was probably 7 or 8 or something like that. So he's kind of like, what are these kids doing in here? So he kind of like at the beginning was kind of like, Dad, how long are they going to be here? So he had one of those because he was smaller and he was young. He just didn't really understand it. So, but now he's a college graduate. He's working and he really, he's cool with some of the former kids. They still keep in touch. And so it
Cool.
turned out actually to be really well with both of my sons.
Yeah, I'm sure it had a tremendous impact. And I mean, I love what you said about, the importance of sitting down with as a whole family and kind of deciding this together and being upfront about that and having them ask questions. And then as Courtney and I have talked to so many people about in our own experiences, that our kids play a vital role as well, just in what they offer and the friendships and the way that they can help the kids in the house kind of even feel different or feel supported in different ways that we as the parents can't give and offer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because
very
we
cool.
did, we chose to foster young boys. So we had two sons, and I wanted to foster a young girl, but I was just hesitant to cross boundaries with two sons and a guy, and so I was a little hesitant to do that. So we just said, okay, we're going to do it as a family, young boys, so our sons can be like big brothers, so they can take the big brother role or whatever. So that's the way we kind of said what we was going to do before we even started. We always did younger kids and boys, so they can kind of be, like younger brothers to our two sons.
Yeah, and that time didn't come necessarily easy. I, again, reading through your book and different stories and situations. And one thing as a foster mom and somebody who trains foster parents is I often get the question about, kind of like you were just saying, you can say we're just going to do young boys or we're just going to do girls or this age or that age. And so we try to be really realistic. I try to teach people to be really realistic about what you can say yes to so that it lasts. But the reality is sometimes a kiddo might come into your home and it's just not working out. And you might need to call the caseworker and ask them to be moved to another home. And that is really hard to do as a foster parent. We've
Yeah.
had to do it once in our journey. And
Yeah.
it still is one of those things that I'm like, I just feel like a failure because of it, but I know that that's not true. Can you speak into that situation? I know you've had to do and encourage foster parents who may feel like they're failures when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's crazy that you mentioned that, because I had to do it. I think we had to do it twice, but our very first kid was that same case. And here I am, just not wanting to foster for 2 years. I decided to go ahead and do it. We signed the papers, we take all the classes, so I'm ready to go now. Like, I'm fired up. Like, look, let's go, let's get it. And we didn't get a kid in for a long time, and I was kind of like, hey, what's going on? Like, we're ready to go, and we didn't get a kid in for like a month or so. So I'm like, okay, fine. So the very first kid that came in was a 5-year-old young boy, nice kid, good kid, but he had some behavior issues, and for some reason he just liked to fight and put his hands on people. And I would sit down and talk to him at home, like, look, man, is anybody bothering you at school or anybody bothering you at aftercare? Because I would come up there and on your
Hmm.
behalf. And he was like, no. And but every time that he got out of school, he would just fight and hit and kick and stuff like that. And I don't know where it was coming from. So we tried to work with him. We told the caseworkers and everything, anything that went on, we documented and stuff. And it got to the point at school where they were kind of giving us the meetings and the, hey, we can't continue to have this going on. And then the after school care, because we had school age boys because of our jobs. So they had to go to school and go to aftercare, and then we'll pick them up from aftercare. Well, he started getting into fights at the aftercare, and they were really strict about the no tolerance on hitting and fighting or whatever. And they worked with us best they could. And eventually they came and said that he could no longer come to the aftercare because his behavior, which we didn't have anywhere for him to go after school. So it was one of those situations that, we had to kind of allow him to go back because we didn't have anywhere for him to go. And that just crushed me. Like, it was kind of like, wait a minute, we're supposed to be helping these kids and not sending them back. And it was my first kid, man. So I was mentally, that bothered me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was kind of like hurt
Hmm.
because he was actually getting better. And I know the impact on him was our standards and everything that we was training and showing him was working, because he stayed under me all the time. And he was just, when he left my presence, he just had these behavior issues. But I knew in time I could help him turn the corner. But, by him having to not being able to go to the aftercare, we had to send him back. And it was just heartbreaking for me, man, because I was just like, I felt like a failure. I felt like, oh my God, I'm the worst foster parent ever. We sending the kid back and we just started. But it was just, sometimes the placements are just not for you, and it's okay. It's not your fault. It's nothing that you did wrong. It was nothing that we did wrong. So it's just a natural feeling to kind of feel like you were disappointed or let down or whatever. But that's just kind of part of it. It happens sometimes.
Mm. Yeah, and strangely, the kiddo that we had to say the same thing to, it was physical. He was really physical with our kids, and we tried and we tried and we tried. And there are situations like that where you do have to look at your own children, your permanent children, and say, "Hey, I have to put their best interest." And when this kiddo left our home, he went into a home that was on a horse ranch with an older couple. They had no kids, and he just flourished there. I mean, he
Hmm.
just didn't do well in our home with younger kids,
Hmm.
but he
Yeah.
did great in this home with a mom and a dad, and ended up being adopted by them and lives on this horse ranch. And so, like, our no, even though it was really hard, but it became somebody else's yes, and it was what that kiddo needed, was best for him
Hmm.
too.
And you have to think about it like this too. Like, this whole foster care ecosystem is all about what's best for the kid.
Right.
So even though that I was mad that he didn't make it in my home. Maybe God had another plan for his life to be with another family, and maybe everything worked out, like you said, in that sense, that kid worked out great. So it was kind of like, okay, well, that just wasn't meant to be. And you have to just kind of take it as that's what it is. Let's move on and continue to do the work that we're doing.
Great way to frame that. And, my wife and I, we were foster parents at a group home. And so we had kind of like you, Corey, we had actually up to 8 elementary boys at a time. And I would say, looking back at that, what we experienced I would say differently than some of the others that had different ages were with those boys in particular, was a lot of anger outbursts that were just rage. And, coming to realize too, that for them, and all that they're going through and all the uncertainty, that anger is not a primary emotions, it's secondary. It's what
Mhm.
is under that tends to be things like fear, anxiety. And so I think that is more common, especially for younger boys, as they're
Mhm.
processing what is
Mhm.
going on, like in my
Mhm.
life and story. Am I going
Mhm.
home? What about mom and dad? All that. So you
Yeah.
kind of just see that.
Yeah, and they have a hard time channeling that emotions and that
Yep.
anger. They're moving to different places and
Yep.
things like that, and they don't really know who you are yet. Can I
Yeah,
trust this guy? Can I trust them? And
sure.
maybe missing home, and and they're young, so they really don't know how to. We got adults that don't even know how to channel their anger and stuff. So
Exactly. Or
you
how
can
to
imagine.
express what they're
What you're
feeling.
really
I
feeling.
think
Yeah.
that's what a lot of it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you're
So it can be
100%.
a difficult thing sometimes for the kids. That's why you have to be patient sometimes. I think I put that in the book, and one of my characteristics of being a good foster parent is patience is one of them. Sometimes you have to just be patient with kids and just let time kind of heal, and you just be the best version of yourself to help them along the journey.
Great tip right there. Well, going back to your book, in your book, Foster Dad, you say that you realized your home was like a temporary rehab facility for the kids. And
Yeah.
so your goal was to make sure they were better off when they left than when they came, which I love.
Yeah.
What are some impactful things you incorporated into your foster parenting to kind of accomplish that goal of this rehab kind of idea?
Mhm. Yeah, that came from a question that somebody asked me about how do you not get attached to foster kids when they leave? I would have a hard time letting the kid leave, and I say, you know what, you do get attached. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes you get attached to them, especially if they've been in your home for a long time. And this is that was the answer to that was that's how I used to psych myself out to think like, okay, well, this is like a temporary rehab facility. I'm going to make sure that they're better when they leave than they came in. So my job is done if they go back to their home or whatever. So I didn't think like, oh man, they're leaving and felt so sad or whatever. Even though you still get that feeling, I was just trying to psych myself out and say this is like a temporary thing or whatever. But what I did was, a lot of structure, a lot of standards. Like, a lot of times the younger kids I would give them chores to do, and everybody would have a day to take out the trash, and everybody would have a day to clean up and sweep or whatever. So I was letting them kind of get some discipline and get some structure, and so that they can take that discipline and structure with them as they leave out the home that they may not have had when they came into the home.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And the structure is one thing that I feel a lot of these kids are lacking when they come into our homes. It's something we can really help instill. And like you said, hopefully they continue doing those things when they leave. Are there other things that you can think of that you hope they left your home with maybe a skill or a different mindset?
A lot of time, at one particular time, I was doing some philanthropy work here in Birmingham, Alabama, and I was giving back to, homeless shelters and things like that. So I would take them with me, and I would let them pass out gifts on Christmas and things like that. So I was hoping that they can see that this life is about helping others, and that was one main thing that I wanted to put in their hearts that hey, no matter what your circumstance or situation is, you receive blessings when you help other people. And even though they're in foster care, they're out here helping other people. When they would see the smiles of the people that we're giving the gifts to, I would watch them and just kind of see how they would interact with that. And they would feel so good that they was able to help somebody else out. So that was another way, besides the standards and the doing things in a proper manner, the bath times and the homework time and the play time and trying to balance all that out. I also tried to make sure they understood what life kind of was all about helping other people.
Hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah. And tied to that, Corey, what's a message of hope that you hope every boy who came through your doors heard and felt from you?
I just wish that they knew that they were loved, and that they wasn't in the system for nothing that they did on their own, and that there was people that still cared about them. Like, regardless
Hmm.
that I wasn't your biological father, that I care about you. And it's funny you asked me that, because I still keep in touch with some of my former kids. Like one of my kids in the story from the beginning, who was 5 pounds, 5 years old, weighed 23 pounds, and he didn't read, write letters, he didn't know anything. So, then he lost his mom while he was in custody, and his dad was in prison, and dad got out of prison and he passed. So I kept in
Wow.
touch with him. He's like my godson. And a couple of months ago, he graduated high school, and I had a chance to kind of go to the graduation. Another one of my former kids, we kept in touch through social media, and he was a high school senior last year. And he called me to come walk him out on the field for senior night,
Hmm.
Oh,
with his
awesome.
adopted new family. So I walked out there on senior night. He's now going to the National Guard, and he sent me a message yesterday or Sunday saying Happy Father's Day to me. He said, I know you're not my biological father, but you know, you've always been there for me, and I thank you. And that touched me right there, man, because I was like, I didn't expect for that to come, and he just sent that to me. So that's something that you hope you made a great impact on the kids when they can come back and say something like to you on Father's Day.
Hmm.
Wow, what a Father's Day gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, I love what you said too, of just, really defining what really it is to be a foster parent, which is, like you said, to be a safe place, to show them love, to
Hmm.
remind them this wasn't your doing. This is a
Hmm.
safe place for you to heal and work. And then what happens next is, it's really not in your hands as the foster parent, and really not in theirs either. And that's
Absolutely.
kind of the hard part of letting them go. But while they're there with you, the love and all of that you can share with them, to your
Hmm.
point and to what happened, shows how much they meant to you, meant to them for you to do that. And it's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
Now, moving on to kind of some teenage things.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a foster parent who really feels exhausted when working with a teen who seems to
Hmm.
keep making the wrong choices over and over? What do you
Hmm.
think? What would you say to that?
I think communication is key right there, man, because sometimes that happens, and the patience part come back in right there too, where you have to just keep plugging in what you're teaching and keep plugging in what you're trying to get done. Like, they don't get it the first time around. Like, sometimes the standard has to be set, but the standard has to continue to be set like the whole time. You can't just set a standard in the beginning and expect for the kid to get it. Like, you have to continue to work. Like, it's working this. So you keep setting that standard over and over and over, and you make sure the communication lines are clear and what your expectations are, even though they may not meet it over and over again. Sooner or later they get it. Like, I had one kid one time that was having some behavior issues out of school, and I stayed at the school for those meetings with the principals and stuff, and he was acting out or whatever. And I remember going to the school after we had several meetings, and they called me up there, and I could hear him like all the way down the hall, just causing havoc in the classroom. And I go in there and he gets quiet, and they ultimately decided that he couldn't stay at that school. So he went to another school. It was a little bit more, 10 students in each classroom, two teachers or whatever. So it was a little bit more manageable. And he got there, and he still didn't do really well at the beginning. We were still teaching those standards and still, trying to get him to do right. And I got another phone call again that he was up there acting out, and he was flipping over tables and throwing pencils at the teachers and principal. And I got on him pretty good that time, because I got up there, because we had been setting those standards for a long time now. And I told him, I said, listen, you're going to respect these teachers like you respect me. And if you have any more problems, I did a little trick. I told his teacher, I said, listen, I pulled out my cell phone. I say, if he has any more problems at this school, call me. This is my phone number. So I actually gave her, and I did it in front of him. So he saw it. And it was funny because she told me, she said, Corey, every time from then on he would try to get into trouble, I would pull out my phone. Do I need to call Mr. McKinney? And he would sit down and stop and get quiet. So it worked, actually. It worked. He thought she was about to call me, and he didn't want that. So he actually started getting it. It was so funny because probably about a couple of weeks later, he wasn't having any issues anymore. And he came home telling me one day, he was like, Mr. Corey, this guy in my class today, Jonathan, he was just acting so bad today. And I'm saying to myself, like, look who's talking. I didn't tell him that, of course, but I was like, he was like, yeah. I said, were you good? He said, yeah, I was doing good, but he was just acting bad. He wasn't listening to the teacher, but I did good. And I was just so proud of him, though. And I was laughing inside because I was like, this is the dude that's been in trouble all year long. And he's talking about another kid in class, but my heart was just smiling, man, because after that point, he had no more issues the rest of the school year.
Wow.
And he probably was the kid that I was most proud of out of all the kids over the whole 8 years because he did the full 360 turn.
Hmm.
And that didn't come from just one time trying to teach him or whatever. That was like over and over and over again. So when you got those kids like that, that's you think that's it's not working or they keep doing the wrong things, then you just have to just keep at it and keep plugging into what you're trying to teach, and eventually they'll get it.
Great
Yeah.
story.
Perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
So, Corey, you say that your purpose is to decrease gun violence, negative peer pressure, and bullying. And bullying is so common in youth who are experiencing foster care. I mean, most of them have experienced it or even are experiencing it when they are experiencing foster care. So, what language or tips do you have for foster parents to use with teens or younger kids who are experiencing bullying because of their situation or just in general?
Well, if it's the person that's being bullied, I try to make sure that the kid knows that they're not alone. Because I've seen so many cases where kids have harmed themselves from being bullied. And that just breaks my heart when I see that, man. It's just like, these kids need to know that they're not alone and that
Mm-hmm.
there's help, that you can let somebody know what's going on. You can be honest with me about that. I tell kids who are doing the bullying that you need to stop it, like immediately. Like, look, you have no business bullying anybody. I lost one of my childhood friends and teammates to a bullying situation, and I saw it. He bullied the guy for 3 weeks in a row, and the guy got tired of it, and he ended up shooting him, and he lost
Wow.
his life over a bullying incident. So
Mm.
I take it from both perspectives. I try to help out the kids who've been bullied, and I also try to teach these kids that are doing the bullying that there's no place for that anywhere, anytime. For any type of bullying for anybody.
Mm. And it can be so brutal. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Yeah,
is. I mean, and we
yeah,
know these stories, but I remember, when you hear stories, I mean, bullying is bullying, wrong, no matter what,
mhm,
whether you're talking about someone's weight, whatever it is.
yeah,
But the kids that can just go for the jugular and know, like saying a comment like your parents didn't want you, or if they know that, I mean, some of that type of identity stuff is like, it's unbelievable to have to experience that, things like that.
yeah.
How
That's
do you,
tough too, man. Because kids can be pretty rough sometimes too, man. They could like you said, hit you below the belt with some of
oh
the
man.
words that they say, and those kids take it to heart. Like they really take those things to heart. So I think that's a time where you have to kind of show the love and just, hey, man, don't worry about what they're talking about. We love you. You're a good kid. You have to come back on the softer side and just build them back up because somebody's already broken them down. So that's a good part to try to just keep their energy and their spirits high so they can continue to thrive and try to be a successful young man or a woman.
Mm. I think also giving them some language to use, when it is around foster care, if somebody's
Yeah.
cutting to the jugular about your
Yep.
situation, but help them like put to voice what they are experiencing so that they can say that back to somebody. I think a lot of kids
Yeah.
just don't understand foster care and there's the ambiguity in it. And they're like, I don't know where I am going. And then when somebody
Yeah.
bullies you because of it, it just adds to it and they don't know how to respond. So giving them
Yes.
Mm.
words too.
And I teach this ICE method for conflict resolution in schools, and I try to make it easy and acronyms for the kids can learn it and they can stop the bullying and whatever. So I have this thing called the ICE method, where the I stands for ignore. Like sometimes people say stuff and they're just really not worth your time and energy to respond to it. Especially now with social media, like you don't have to respond to every tweet or message that somebody send out. Some people are just not worth your time. Then we move to the C, which is communicate. So, hey, sometimes people do things and they don't even know they hurt your feelings. Go have a conversation with them. Sometimes fights happen because people say, well, I heard this person said this, and this person, like, go talk to the person, have a conversation nicely. Time and tone is key when you're communicating. And then the E stands for escalate. Like, if it continues, then get somebody else involved to help out with the situation. Like, if you're in school, that's when you tell the teacher, the counselor, the AP, the principal, somebody until we get the issue resolved. So, it helps out a lot having a framework that they can kind of go by to deal with that kind of stuff.
That's great. Yeah. And easy to remember.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well
absolutely.
said. Well, as we kind of get this to the home stretch, this has been a great conversation. I get to ask you a question that I am very passionate about. So I feel honored to ask this question. But I really, just being a guy, a normal guy who came into the space of foster care and the light bulb went on, not before it, but in it and learning and
Mhm.
knowing I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
I have such a passion for other men that maybe are reluctant to join the space or think they don't have anything to offer? Often I think men can feel like, hey, maybe we're not as emotionally in tune, not as nurturing. Therefore, like I'm going to really suck at this, or I'm not going to, I will no idea what I'm doing. And I think we realize we have some tremendous things to offer in just being there and loving them the way we can. So I really want to hear from you on this. So as a foster dad, there's a lot of impact you were able to make. You've shared some of that already in the amazing stories and them getting to tell you back how much that was. As many children don't have a healthy male in their lives. That's just true. The data shows that. Speak to the men listening and what impacts can they have, and whether they're foster parents or not, for men.
Yeah, that was actually part of the reason that I even wrote that book. I titled it Foster Dad because I wrote it from a dad's perspective, how I view things as a dad. The first reason was the shortage of homes. Like every time a kid goes back, there's more kids waiting. So there was such a shortage of homes. So I was trying to make more people get involved. But the second reason was just that, I didn't want to foster. I knew there was other men out there that could be kind of like I was. Like, man, I'm not going to foster. I don't want to do that. Or you may be on the fence thinking about it. And that was another reason that I wrote it, to try to get people to kind of get over the fence about it. And the third reason was because I saw the impact of having a male figure in these homes especially with those boys, probably girls too as well. But you know how it is sometimes, especially young men. Like I said, if Courtney can tell the kid, "Hey, sit down, sit down, sit down," and they don't. You have to say it 3 or 4 times. And I walk in the room and say, "Hey, sit down," and they sit right down. So it's like sometimes just having that voice or a deeper voice or the presence or whatever makes a huge difference, man. Because I saw kids that had behavior issues, and it was funny because I was like the disciplinarian guy, but I was the fun guy too. And they would have to come sit with me when they got into trouble, and they hated it. They was kind of like, "Oh my God, I'm in jail." I got to go sit with Corey. Like we had a kid one time at church, and he went to the children's part, but he was kind of acting out, so they brought him back to us. And I was like, "Well, you got to sit next to me now," because he was just like, "Oh my God, I got to sit next to Corey." But it was so funny because they knew I wasn't going to allow them to misbehave. And they knew that because of that male's presence or whatever. But, even having that disciplinary and that male structure, those kids stayed under me. They stayed under me. Like, they need that. So they do need male figures even more than we have now in the foster care world, man. It's huge. Like, if there's any males out there that's even halfway thinking about do it. Even if you start out with the respite, where you just do it. I used to call respite like the substitute teacher, where you kind of just do it on the weekends or sometimes whatever. Like just try it. Start with the respite and do it on the weekends and see how you like it. And if it goes well, do it full time, but just do something. And even if you don't foster, man, like I tell people all the time, we all can do something. Even though if we may not be foster parents, we can do something. There's somebody you can help as a male or a woman as well. Like kids need stuff for back to school. There's haircuts, there's outfits. There's something you can do for these kids in foster care that you can help them. And your role and your time and energy and your wisdom is something that is so needed in the foster care world.
Great message.
Yeah. And the mentoring, I mean, the camp that you work at, but mentoring as a whole, I think is something that's often overlooked. To be able to come alongside a kid who's in care, a youth who's in care, and just pour into them, take them and shoot hoops with them once a week or whatever it might be, of just being that figure, a male presence in their life is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it makes a big difference, man. And you don't get and like I said, like some of the kids that we had just reached back out to me. He's 18 now and sent me their Father's Day message. So what you're doing, the work, you may not see it in real time, but trust me, your impact is there, and they're going to appreciate it down the line, and you'll get your roses down the line for. But while you're in it right now, just go full speed with it. Help somebody out, pour into somebody else, and I just always feel that God blesses you when you bless other people. That's just how I've always thought that, So I just feel like that's the way to go. That's the way to do it. And if you can do that, man, just even a little bit, you can change one life, man. That'll make all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed getting to know you through your book. I really enjoyed communicating with you on the podcast. Just your presence and a healthy male presence and the impact that can make. Corey, as we finish this out, how would you finish this sentence? What kids in foster care really need is
Love. I would say love. and let them know that they are loved and that they are special, they're kind or whatever, and that they're going to be successful regardless of the situation, what it looks like, what it feels like. If you show them love, sometimes you can just make it through the rough times, because you have that support and that system. Because we all going to have adversity, we're all going to have things we deal with. But when you got a backing that people love you and you know it and you can feel that, then it gives you a little bit more leeway of continuing to be successful in your life, whether it's a young kid, a teenager, or even an adult as well. So I think loving these kids, man, is the ticket to allow them to have some type of freedom and an opportunity to be successful.
Awesome.
It's about as good of an ending as you can say, and
Yeah.
and a message that is incredible. So
Yeah. But thank you guys again, man. I really enjoyed this, man. Thank you for all that you do as well, man. Like some people take that for granted what you're doing, and I really appreciate that. I look at the podcast too, so I like what you guys are doing. I love what you guys are doing and the ministry you're working with and your hearts. I can tell you guys' hearts are there. That's why I reached out in the beginning. I was like, aligned hearts, other
that's
people who have good hearts or whatever. So I was like, I got to try to get on and try to talk to these guys, man. And just share stories and, just go from there, man. So thank you guys again for everything that you do. I appreciate it.
And vice versa. Thank you
Yeah.
again for your impact. And again, your time fostering's over, but you're still impacting kids. So I love it.
and
Absolutely.
inspiring us as well. So thanks for hopping on with us today.
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, will you help us reach more people by subscribing, sharing the podcast with a friend, and leaving a 5-star review? If you've been inspired by what you've heard today and want to learn more of how you can make a difference for kids in foster care and the foster families where you live, visit americaskidsbelong.org. We depend on individual donors to fund our work. We'd be grateful if you would consider joining us as a monthly donor. Visit americaskidsbelong.org to make your tax-deductible donation. Thank you. Together, we can ensure a family for every child in foster care and a foster-friendly community to ensure every foster family feels loved and supported.